have a really special guest here today, Tony Mazur. I became close to Tony because when he first came down on the floor, I was lucky enough to have Tony for my futures. So he executed all my hedges. I was an options trader. Apart from being a phenomenal broker, he's also larger than life. Tony, how tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
6'4".
Shrunk a little bit. That old age starts setting in a little bit.
Well, I remember the shoulders. So for me, it was very easy to find you in the pit.
Funny you mentioned that. I was actually considered small in the pits in Chicago.
Really?
Literally. And so it was like almost like a pleasure being in the UK, because now all of a sudden I am, not the smallest guy in the pit anymore and stuff. So
Must have been like coming like Gulliver's Travels going to Oompa Loompa. Especially with me, 5'6".
oh God, that's too funny.
So your nickname on the floor is Muzz because your trading badge is Muzz because your name is Tony Mazur.
Yep. Well, actually, yes. It's a funny story. I'll make it short and sweet. But when we were in college, and Dobosh, we played college ball together. Well, long and short is, I had an outstanding freshman year, and during this year, I had pulled like a bonehead move, and my nickname was Tony Mays. But my starting quarterback at the time says, "You're such, you know what? You're no longer Mays anymore. You're Muzz." And so it was more or less like a cut down. And for whatever reason, it just stuck. So yeah, given to me in college, and it just kind of stuck with me.
So listen, I don't get to speak to many people who had experience of trading on the floor in Chicago. So tell me about that.
It was definitely a lot more physical in Chicago than it was in the UK. The UK was proper. The suits, it got to a point where they actually said, we don't even have to wear ties anymore and stuff. And so, but trading in Chicago it was very similar in the UK. You had educated people, all competing against one another to try to, make money. And it was just the energy and the vibe. I mean, it was nothing else like it. I mean, the only way I can describe it is something along of being part of like a championship sports team. When you're going for something and you finally reach that pinnacle and you get it, being in the trading was like reaching the pinnacle. Literally, because I started as a runner with Shearfin and Lehman, making $237.
Was that?
1989, actually. That's when I first started.
How old were you?
I was in college. I had just got done playing my sophomore year, and I actually had a bad year of playing ball. And I said to my parents, "Look, man, I need to take some time off." I said, I'm not ready to come back to school right now. And they're like, "Okay, fine. Do you want to come back to school? Or you want to take a semester off? You're going to have to think about getting a real job." And I was like, "Well, fuck, what's a real job?" And literally remembering watching the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off was my first interaction with one of my best mates in high school. When we saw the movie, we're like, what the fuck are those people doing? And I don't know if you ever remember the scene when they're doing their Chicago.
Of course
and they go up to the visitors gallery and they see all the crazy coats and stuff. And I said, man, I'm going to figure out what that's all about.
No way. Trading.
Well,
trading.
And this is it. Yeah, literally. So now all of a sudden, I'm, trying to figure out this, but I know I want to get on the floor. So I start doing networking. Who do I know that's on the floor? Long sort of guy I played high school football with. His stepfather, who played for the Dallas Cowboys, was a T-bill trader at that time at the Mercantile Exchange. And so for shits and giggles, I just reached out to him. I said, "Hey, Kevin, is there any possible way you can get me a job down on the floor? I'm taking a semester off of school, or, just training really hard for football." And he's like, "Tom, I'm a one-man show. I have my own personal clerk. But what I can do, if you're interested, I can just sign you on as a visitor. You can come on as my visitor and, see what you can do." And I said, "D, that would be awesome." And so around this time, it was like around Christmas time. And my my dad took us on a family vacation. So we had just gotten back, and I called Kevin up. I'm like, "Hey, Kev, whenever you want to take me down to the floor, I'm ready." I was all nice and tan and everything. I bought a cool real suit and all that stuff. And he's like, "Well, how about Wednesday?" And I said, "That's perfect." So I go down on the floor with him. He signs on the floor. I'm like the kid in the candy store. You see all this hustle and bustle or commotion, people yelling, screaming. You see girls.
I remember the first time I went on the floor.
There was just energy at its fullest.
And how many people were on that floor? Because there was probably about 3,000 on Life. How many was there on the
There was 3,000 on. Well, you got to remember there were separate quadrants of the trading floor. It's not Okay, I'm gonna say comfortably, if there was 3,000 on white, there was probably, I'm gonna say double that in Chicago. Because like the Boone pit, I think was the biggest pit in London, that I remember, with the most amount of traders in it. And that didn't even compare to what, like, say, the Eurodollar pit was in Chicago. The Eurodollar pit had 3 times as many people as the Boone pit did in Chicago, in London.
So probably about 1,000 people
So,
standing in one pit trading.
yeah, literally.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so as it turns out, I'm on the floor and he's walking around. He's like, I got to go over here, but you know what? Just stay out of trouble and do your thing. So I'm literally standing on the outside of the Eurodollar pit in this suit and tie, all tanned up. And all of a sudden, this black girl, she was a black lady, I should say, and her name was Anita Piles. And she was about 6'4", 250 pounds. I mean, she was as big as I was. And I didn't know this at the time, but she loved white boys. And long and short is she looked down on me on the floor because she was standing on one of the top steps in this training pit. And she's like, Dean, well, you look good. What's you? And I just said with a straight face, I said, I'm looking for a job. And I didn't know at this time, and this was God working in mysterious ways and being at the right place at the right time, where she was like the social director of the whole Mercantile Exchange. She knew everybody. She knew where all the parties were. I mean, she literally can tell you who to go to talk to about this. Well, she literally grabbed me by the hand, and I'm not lying to you, escorted me up 14 trading floors, well, an elevator, of course, in the Mercantile Exchange, the Birdie South Blacker at the time. I filled out probably about 15 different applications with 15 different, clearing firms and this and that. That was Wednesday. Thursday, Shearson Lehman calls me and said, do you want to start running for us in the currencies?
Wow, currency.
Hell yeah. So that's literally how I got my start into the job. And to this day, I'm still dear friends with Anita. She's now married. It's Anita Piles Vinar. And keep her in your prayers and everybody, just because she's battling cancer and a lot of stuff. And literally the one that gave me my start in the career that just get great life for so many years.
Wow, that's a good story. And how many years were you on the Merc before you came to London?
Well, so now I started as a runner, and then how I got to London, this is how, basically, now Dobosh and I, we know very well. He was in Cincinnati at the time, and we had gotten out of college, and long and short is he was selling baseball cards for a living at that time. His parents were getting pissed off at him. And I was like, look, I said, as it turns out, my boss might be looking for somebody to hire. So long and short is I was the runner after Shearson found, obviously I needed to get into the pits. And the next step was becoming a clerk. And how I did that was literally being in the right place at the right time. I got a market order to run to the Swiss franc. I was running to the Swiss franc pit, and all of a sudden I bumped into a Shearson broker, almost like pull forward. And I'm like, oh, here, dude, you got to fill the market order. And he's like, what's your name? And I said, Tony Mays. He's like, man, you're big good. Do you play ball? I said, yeah. And he goes, what do you play ball at? And I told him, and he's like, oh, shit, I play ball at Northwestern. And long and short, he happened to be a fraternity brother of mine at Northwestern, didn't know it. So I'm like, is there any way you can get me into the pits? And he's just like, do you know Art? And Art is anybody, because this is how we talk with our hands in the business and stuff. And I said, no, I don't. He's like, you go take Bruce and Rami's class, and once you learn Art, come back and talk to him. And so I did. I wound up go taking the Art class. It was after work. These gentlemen pawned it to us, and we got to learn how to signal with our hands. Came back to him. Next thing you know, he stuck me right in the Japanese young kid and said, "Look for that guy right there." And it was a phone line from a customer in New York. And I'll never forget the first order I fucked up really, really, really bad. And it cost my broker big. After that, I made sure as a clerk, I double checked and triple checked everything. But that's how I got into the pits. And then from there, I was looking for a job because I wasn't making a lot of money. And somebody approached me because the brokers knew that, hey, I just got done with my football career, wasn't playing football anymore. I was looking for a full-time job down here now because they kept me on as like a bench warmer, if that makes sense, because they liked me and they wanted to see me do well down there. And so somebody approached me and said, hey, you looking for a job? And I said, yes. That guy, I called him on a Saturday. He says, what are you making right now? I said, this. He goes, how about I double that? You come work for me in the Eurodollar there. I said, done. I went in. I called my bosses at that time, and they're like, man, we're so happy for you. Good, go get him, blah, blah, blah. So I got to the Eurodollar bit. At that time, my boss was starting to look for more guys. And they said, hey, I got my best friend in Cincinnati. He's not doing anything. Well, he bought Dobosh on board. And for the first few months, he paid Dobosh only $50 a week. Literally It was a trial period to see how well he can do. And long and short is, how successful, Dobosh eventually was in London and all that. And so, yeah, in the beginning of Michael's career, he was making $50 a week for the first 2 months until finally our boss, paid him accordingly and stuff. And then through that relationship, we found out that Roger Carlson had relationship with our boss at the time. His name was Jeff Salston. Well, Jeff had connections with people in London, and they wanted to set up an operation out there. Long and short, we were going to go with our boss at the time. And we were set to go in like December of 92. He backed out in October of 92. And we had already told everybody, we'd already gotten out of our lease in our apartment in Chicago, and he felt bad. And at that point in November of 92, he introduced us in person to Roger Carlson. And that's how Dobosh and I first came over to London, was through Roger Carlson at First Continental Trading back January 15th of 1993. We were just clerks in Chicago. All we knew is that Roger was going to give us the shot to become trader, because for us to do it in Chicago, if you weren't part of the three cliques, and the three cliques were the G's, Irish, and the Italians, who kind of ran the exchange, it would have taken probably 15, 20 years for us to get our seats, because we didn't have money and all that. Yeah, there was a long line. I mean, if you're making $500,000 a year filling orders, you want to give that job up. I mean, and so what happened is, when you were working for these big companies, once you earned your right there for being a clerk for X amount of years, they gave you like a junior badge. And then you fill clerk as a junior badge. And then eventually from that, they would give you a bigger badge and you could start filling some orders and stuff. But that process took a lot longer than it did when we got to London. Within 6 weeks, we had our badges.
Wow.
I mean,
okay. So that was a big jump for you guys.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, I remember getting our red badges and stuff like that,
So I didn't realize that you'd not trained in Chicago.
Me and Dobosh were literally straight clerk. And,
It's been really easily.
Yes, well, and the whole point of us coming over there was because they wanted to show London how effective clerks could be on the edges of the pit, between the futures and the options, and the process between phone clerks, rather than having the broker trying to watch that phone clerk, filling orders and doing it. It streamlined the process, and that was the whole point of us coming over there. And, lo and behold, obviously it turned out to be an option route, and something that forever grateful for.
Well, you certainly made your mark on the floor. You built a really amazing life in London.
It was. I mean, in just this now, 30 years later, we can still see each other now. And I mean, we can literally, a heartfelt smile, like, damn, we did battle together in the same pits. We went through some of the same financial hard times during those 6 or 7 years. We saw the ups and downs, the goods, the bads. We also partied like rock stars. A lot of experiences that were just, thank God there was no social media at that time.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. And thank God there was no mobile phones that you could video stuff.
Oh my God, that would have been detrimental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, there's just the stories, but no evidence. Well, so give me your most memorable time on the floor. There must be a trade or some experience that you had that really sticks in your mind.
One of the most memorable times is when we first got there, learning the language, or the difference in language barriers. I remember, I don't know if you remember, this was we were outside the Sterling pit, and we had just gotten done from a weekend of partying. And the story was, me and Dobes were at the Hippodrome, typical tourist shit when we first got there. Went to the Hippodrome. They had no fucking ice cold beer, so we had them put Newcastle Brown Ale on ice for us behind the bar, so this way it get cold for us septics and shit, because we still haven't learned how to drink warm beer yet. So we're drinking now, we're getting comfortable. A couple lassies won. And I'm like, damn. I said, she's got a great fan. And all of a sudden, Michael looks at me and goes, here, she does have a great deal overheard it. Now he looks at it, comes back to us, takes her drink, and goes, right, he's on me, and take dirt on him. I was like, fuck, what the hell was that? Well, we get to the floor, and I'm telling the story. I'm asking you guys, because we're new, we don't know. I'm like, what the fuck did I do wrong? I just told her she had a nice act in a nice way. Well, all of a sudden, the boys say to me in the pit, they started laughing. They're like, mate, Danny doesn't mean half there for you. Danny means, but I'm like, I just told her she's got a nice pussy. Oh shit, long and shortest. No wonder why I got a drink filled on me. It was little things like that that became memorable experiences. Was just being in the pits and laughing with the guys. Quiet times after the morning numbers or the afternoon numbers and shit. You just had time on your hands to fuck with each other. And the
banter was brilliant, wasn't it?
oh, the banter was phenomenal. And
You had to be able to take a lot of shit, but you get it back the same amount.
I tell you what, there were a couple of women on the floor. I was petrified of. Steph Andrews was one of them. When she got pissed and she used that C word and stuff like that, I mean, I was a pretty good guy. And I was standing next to John Ducky one time. We were in the, I forgot what club we were in, but I was standing next to him and she was like just down below. And she turned around and I literally started, ooh, I would want to fuck with her. But I mean,
well, they had to be double hard because they're in a male testosterone-filled environment. So the girls that survived that, all respect to them. And the girls, the Croats as well, because they could walk up with all the shit from the traders as well. So they had to be pretty tough.
And I loved the break room. I loved the smoky room because we would sit and smoke cigars and play cards and shoot the shit. The lifestyle was so cool. We drive our cars in the parking garage. We go from there, we go to work.
I remember your Corvette.
Yeah.
I remember scraping the wheels on your Corvette when I took it out. Oh,
well, it's all good, man.
I still owe you two Corvette wheels.
Well, it's all good, man. Don't you worry about it, buddy. It's all in the past, and it was all in good fun, and it's all material shit. It comes and it goes. And I'll tell you what, working in the real world now and not making that kind of money that we used to make, it's humbling. It's very, very, very humbling. And I work my ass off now for a fucking paycheck on a 40-hour week. And I do it now for insurance purposes. Don't get me wrong. At this stage of my life, being self-employed, the cost of health insurance is just absolutely ridiculous and shit here in the States. I figure if I can put in 40 hours a week, they get good benefits and they put money away for me in a nice annuity and shit. And I can still do my real estate on the side, So it's not a bad deal, but I put my money away and invested it smarter. But that wasn't the case. I enjoyed it while it was lasted.
Yeah. Well, you only get one life, eh? So,
that is true, man. That is true.
Unique experience to come over to London in the 90s, go straight into a trading pit, earning big money from day one, really, for you.
When I learned early on, I don't know if you remember when I got in the hole early on with FCT and stuff, because Mark gave me that 20 lot limit in the Sterling. I was trading 20 lots. And I had like 120 lot position or something like that. And Mark Green pulls me aside. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you gave me a 20 lot limit, so I'm selling 20, I'm selling 20, I'm selling 20, I'm selling 20, I'm selling 20. I'm throwing 120 now.
I remember that.
Yeah, he's like, let's get you into brokerage a little bit until you get the hang of the trading and stuff. And that kind of, the brokerage got me out of debt. And dude, I mean, I love that. And I remember fucking filling for the tour guy in the BTP pit back in the day. And I love Terry Crawley, man. Him and I got along like peas in a pond. I mean, literally in the pit, I respected him. But I didn't take his shit and stuff like that. And I remember there was one time, Deutscher's deck filler and Dean Witter's deck filler, they all went on holiday. So I was controlling that paper and running Tuna's arm and trading her own account.
Well, so you did 3 jobs at once.
It was insane. It was awesome. It was just so much fun.
You really were.
It was so much fun. Yeah. So how's everything with you? Are you still trading?
I trade a little bit. I have a service, where I provide signals and analysis and stuff on a daily basis.
You
so I basically help other people to make money. I'm lucky that I don't need to work anymore, but I quite enjoy that. And I meet good friends through the business as well. Actually, I saw Mark Green. I was down with Mark and Valerie in Soda Grande just a few days ago. So it was really nice to catch up with him.
Yeah, I heard it. Well, I keep in touch with Val, through social media and stuff like that. And he's doing much, much better.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm just so grateful for and stuff.
And so how many years were you on the floor for?
Well, I basically started in 1989 and then left in 2010.
So you started in 89, came to London in 92, and you finished
January 93.
Yeah, 93, you said that. And then, so what did you do? So you were still trading when the floor shut, or at the end of the decade of the century?
Yeah, November of 98, I was actually engaged to a girl from Sydney at that time. And that was a funny story. I had first met this girl literally in one of the first 4 or 5 months of living in London. And it was one of the boys' stag dudes at Cafe Day. And I think I'm always chic and European because I'm all Euro now. Jeans and shit like that. And all of a sudden I see this stunning blonde, and I approach her like a typical fucking arrogant male trader. I look at her and go, I don't care what it costs, what it takes. I want you tonight. And she's like, are you here for the party? And I'm like, yeah. I said, you have a stag do. I said, you're working a stag do, right? I said, I want you tonight. So whatever it costs, I want you. And she looked at me and was like, no, I'm the hostess here. I'm not working the party. I'm the hostess. And I was like, oh, fuck. And literally for 6 years, I avoided this girl until within 2 months of me knowing that, I was thinking about doing something else. Well, I bumped into her when we know the floor is closing. And I see her at cafe. It was a Havana club. And we were having some cigars in there late at night. She sees me and she's just like, what's doing? And I'm like, oh, we're just getting ready for, cigars for my leading gig. She's like, you're leading gig? What are you talking about? I said, yeah, I'm done in London. I said, I'm out of here. I'm getting ready to go back to Chicago because the floor is closed. You can go back. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, you never asked me out properly. Wow. Literally, I was like floored. And she was dating a trader friend of ours at the time, Ernst. And long and short is, I said, well, hey, the after parties at my flat. I was living with Killer at the time, and we had a badass flat across from Kensington Gardens, right on High Street, Kensington. Fucking three bed, 3 bath. I mean, we literally rollerbladed in the front living room and shit. That's how big this place was. Long short is, I started to, we're having the after party there. And I figured to myself, if she shows up, then she's interested, and she did. She showed up. We got engaged.
Whoa, that's a good story.
I went to Chicago for about a month or so, and then she was from Sydney. That's when I went to Australia. And then I wound up staying in Australia for through the Olympics of 2000. So I was there for the millennium. I was there for the 99 years, and then I stayed through the Sydney Olympics of 2000. And then at that time, I was like, I got to go back to, so I got to start making some money is what it was, because I really started working. And so that's when I flew back to the Chicago, and then started with a brokerage team in the S&P pit. And that would have been October of 2000. And from October of 2000, I remained in Chicago on the trading floor until I think it was March of 2010. March of 2010 is when I officially kind of left the floor, and my partner and I kind of dissolved our partnership and stuff. And,
a 2 decades floor trading career. That's a long time.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, yes, I was very, very blessed to experience it and to go through Charlotte. I mean, I remember 9/11, and unfortunately, I got a call from my outtrade clerk that morning super early. He's like, we got an issue. And me and my partner in a bad outtrade, we were long. We got called along in that. We came onto the floor, and next thing, eventually it was like 1.2 million.
Whoa.
And then you were part of the whole world of Nick Leafing stuff. I mean, that was the whole fiasco. You want to talk about writing a fucking book?
Yeah.
I remember this about a week straight. Dobosh and I had paparazzi in front of a place for Field Gardens, wanting to get the scoop on Nick Leafson and stuff like that. I mean, it was fucking insane. I mean, there was
I was in the movie. I was just an extra in the movie, but I was doing the pit scenes in the Nick Leeson road trade movie. I'm seeing Nick next week. Actually, it's on Friday. I'm seeing Nick. I stay in touch with him, but I haven't seen him since those days when he used to come to London from Singapore before he went to jail. So it's going to be really nice catching up with him.
Hopefully he remembers, because we spent a lot of time in Ireland on that trip. Have you done any of the reunion parties, like when they have them in the summer or the winter?
No, because I live in Thailand, so I'm too far away. I come over to the UK, but not very often, and I don't seem to be able to time it well.
Now, what area in Thailand are you located? Are you based
I'm in Phuket, the island of Phuket. Come and see me, mate.
I will. Spent the whole 6 weeks out in that area. We did Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia. We were just in backpacks, and we just toured around. I mean, we eventually got to hotels because we got sick of, doing the backpacking shit. But I loved it, man. Koh Phangan, well, good. I know I have a place to come to then.
Yeah, you sure do. You definitely do. We have to meet up again. Mate, it's been lovely talking to you. It really has. It's lovely to catch up. And let's do one of those life reunions in London very soon.
I will, without a doubt. Jason, thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of your podcast. And to all the people who are listening, man, thank you for everything. This was a fucking ride.
The man and the legend, Tony Mars.
Love you guys. Peace.